Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed at 1,000 subscribers. I'll be posting a special video. The pounding at the door snapped me upright on the couch. My heart went wild before my brain even woke up. I am Claire, 42, and that sound still rings. The next hit shook the frame like someone meant business. I crossed the hallway fast, bare feet slapping the floor. Through the glass I caught blue and red spinning outside. For a second I thought wrong address or some chase. Then I heard it, police department, open up now. I cracked the door, chain still on, voice stuck halfway out. Two uniforms filled the gap, hands held just off their belts. Ma'am, we got a call from this address tonight. The older one glanced past me like he already knew. My mouth moved before my thoughts lined up. Is something wrong? Did something happen on the street? He shook his head once, slow, eyes still inside my house. Is your daughter home, ma'am? That word hit harder than the knocking. Daughter, not you, not your husband, just her. Yeah, she is upstairs. What is this about? My stomach twisted so tight I felt a little sick. Can we come in while we speak with her? He said it calm, like this was routine on a Tuesday. I opened the door wider and stepped back without thinking. I already felt guilty, and I did not know why. They walked in with that careful, heavy step trained for crises. One stayed near me, the other looked up toward the landing. Is anyone else here besides you and your daughter? Yeah, my husband is in the bedroom down the hall. Not really husband, but I did not correct him. Can you get him out here, please? We need everyone present. His tone was polite, but it left no space to argue. I called out, voice sharper than I meant. Dan, can you come here a second? He answered from the bedroom, tired, like I was overreacting. Give me a minute, I am changing for bed. Now please, the officer's gaze slid toward the hallway. The floor creaked above us, slow, hesitant, like someone hiding. Lily, come down here too, I called, neck already prickling. Nothing at first, just another short creak, then silence again. Every second stretched until my skin felt too tight. Dan stepped into the hallway, t-shirt thrown on crooked. He stopped when he saw the uniforms waiting in our entryway. What is going on? Did something happen outside? He looked at me, not them, and that still hurts. The older officer nodded once in his direction. Sir, you are Daniel Carter, you live at this address. Dan frowned, eyes flicking between us like checking a joke. Yeah, what is this about? Did someone break in? Then I heard the soft steps on the stairs above. Lily appeared on the landing, hand gripping the rail hard. She looked small and older at the same time somehow. Her eyes skipped right over Dan like he was furniture. Lily, I started, but my voice came out too bright. The second officer turned his whole body toward her immediately. Hi, I am Officer Grant, can we talk for a moment? She nodded, but her chin shook like it weighed a ton. He moved to the bottom of the stairs, careful, almost gentle. Do you feel okay talking here, or do you want privacy? Her gaze darted to me, then snapped back down again. She swallowed hard and stared straight past him at Dan. It was him. She lifted her arm and pointed. No tremor in that hand, just one clear line at Dan. He came into my room and touched me where he should not. The words dropped flat, no drama, like repeating homework. I felt my knees loosen, like the bones had vanished completely. The hallway shrank around us, only her finger and his face. Dan actually laughed once, a short, shocked sound from his chest. What are you talking about? What is this, Lily? She flinched at her name, hand dropping but not fully. He came in tonight, he put his hand on me. Her other arm wrapped around her ribs like she was holding herself. I want him out of this house right now. The officer glanced at me, then at Dan, quick, assessing. Sir, I need you to stay where you are for now. His partner shifted closer to Lily, keeping his voice even. Lily, when did this happen tonight? Can you tell me again? About an hour ago, after Mom went downstairs. She pressed her back to the wall, fingers digging into paint. He sat on my bed and started touching me through my clothes. Her eyes filled fast, but her voice stayed steady and cold. I could not seem to move my feet toward either of them. Every sound layered on top of the last until nothing made sense. Dan kept shaking his head, a tiny angry rhythm in his neck. Claire, you know me, I would never do something like that. He stepped forward once, hand lifting like he might reach me. The older officer blocked him without even touching, body a wall. Sir, I am going to ask you to keep your distance. The word sir sounded different now, clipped, not polite anymore. Lily, are you safe right now? Do you feel in danger? She tore her eyes away from Dan and looked at Em. Finally. I am scared he is going to come back in there. Her voice cracked on back, and that finished the argument inside me. I moved to her side, shoes squeaking on the wood as I shifted. I put my arm around her shoulders, and she collapsed into me. It is okay, I am here, I believe you. I heard myself say it before I thought about what it meant. The officer turned to me, serious but not unkind. Ma'am, based on what your daughter just reported, we have to act. Do you feel safe remaining in the home with him tonight? The answer jumped out of my mouth like it had waited there. No, I do not feel safe with him here anymore. I watched Dan's face when I said that. Something cracked. He lifted his hands like surrender, then dropped them halfway. You cannot be serious, Claire, this is insane. The younger officer touched his radio, voice clipped as he spoke. Dispatch, we have a reported incident, one adult male present. He rattled off our address, and I realized this was official now. There was no way to rewind whatever came next. Lily, would you be okay answering a few more questions? He kept his tone soft, eyes never drifting back to Dan. She nodded against my side, cheek hot through my shirt. I could feel her heartbeat thudding through the fabric. They guided us a few steps away, still within sight. Dan stood alone near the bedroom door, hands flexing at his sides. He looked smaller than I had ever seen him, like the room grew. He kept searching my face, hunting for some sign of trust. Has anything like this ever happened before? The question floated between us like a test I might fail. I thought of every awkward hug and every joke that felt off. I hated myself for digging, but I dug anyway. Sometimes he has been too familiar, I guess. The words tasted rotten and true at the same time. I watched the officer note something down on his small pad. Every stroke of his pen sounded like another nail dropping. Behind us, Dan spoke again, louder, almost desperate now. This is crazy, ask her about tonight, I was watching the game. The officer near him lifted one hand, palm out like a barrier. Sir, you need to stop talking and wait while we sort this out. Lily squeezed my arm so tight my fingers tingled. Do not let him come near me, please. Her breath hitched on every word like she had run a mile. I nodded over and over, my own breathing just as ragged. Ma'am, we are going to separate everyone while we continue. The older officer looked between us again, checking our faces. You and your daughter stay together here, I will speak with him. That division felt like a line carved right through our family. He moved back toward Dan, voice lower, impossible to ignore though. I caught pieces, allegation, restraint, probable cause, ugly phrases. Dan ran both hands through his hair, pacing a tight circle. He shot one last look at me that felt like a verdict. The younger officer leaned closer, dropping his voice again. Lily, we may need you to come in tomorrow for a full statement. He explained about interviews and recordings and maybe a medical check. Every word stacked the night higher, like a pile I could not climb. Do I have to? I do not want anyone touching me. She pulled back a little, palms slick in mine. You can say no, but this helps us if you want charges. Charges, that word landed heavy and final on the living room air. I heard myself answer for her, even though they asked her. Yes, we will do whatever we need to do. I felt her jolt beside me when I said it that firmly. I had chosen a road for all three of us with that line. The older officer came back, jaw set tighter than before. Sir, at this time you are being detained pending investigation. He reached for the cuffs as he spoke, no pause for reactions. Metal clicked around Dan's wrists with a sound I still hear. Dan lurched once, then stopped, chest heaving like he might shout. He looked straight at me, no longer at the officers. Claire, please look at me, you know this is a lie. I could not lift my eyes higher than his shoes. The officer guided him toward the door, hand on his elbow. They moved past us slow, like a funeral that refused to hurry. Lily pressed her face into my side so she would not see. I watched his shadow cross the threshold instead of his body. When the door opened again, the night outside felt louder. I became aware of movement across the street, curtains shifting. Someone stepped out onto a porch, phone glowing blue in their hand. Our private disaster was already turning into neighborhood entertainment. On the porch, Dan twisted once more before the cruiser swallowed him. "Tell them the truth, Claire, tell them I did not do this." His voice cracked open on truth, then the door shut behind him. The engine started, and the sound rolled right through my spine. One officer stayed behind, filling in blanks on his form. He asked me to repeat the sequence like a checklist. She came downstairs, she made the disclosure, you confirmed fear for safety. I nodded on each point, stamping my name onto the whole night. Do you have somewhere else you can stay if needed? I shook my head because this was our house, our mortgage. We will patrol the area tonight, but he is in custody now. Custody, another word that sounded simple for something huge. Lily had gone quiet, empty, like her voice ran out. She stared at the closed door, eyes dry now, expression locked. I wrapped both arms around her from behind, like a shield too late. In that position, I could not see her face at all. When the last uniform stepped outside, the silence rushed in. No radios, no heavy boots, just our breathing bouncing off the walls. I locked the door twice and checked it again without thinking. The house felt the same and completely different in one breath. I led Lily upstairs, every step slow, like the floor might crack. She did not want to sleep in her room, I did not argue. We climbed into my bed, covers pulled up almost over our heads. Her whisper came in the dark, "You believe me, right?" "Yes, I do, I am right here." I heard how absolute it sounded, like a promise carved in stone. At the time it felt holy and necessary, the only possible answer. I had no idea how heavy that yes would become. The ringtone yanked me out of a shallow, twisted sleep. My hand shot for the nightstand, almost knocking my glass over. Lily groaned beside me and burrowed deeper under the blanket. Unknown number on the screen, local area code, my pulse jumping. I answered before it stopped, voice rough, throat still dry. "Hello. Ms. Carter, this is the school district human resources office." The words lined up fast in my head, not good news. "Is something wrong?" "We were informed your partner was taken into custody overnight." I sat up so fast the mattress bounced under both of us. "We have to remove him from his position pending investigation." I heard Lily shift behind me, then still completely. "What does that mean, remove him how long?" "Indefinite unpaid leave starting today, he will not return to campus." The sentence sounded rehearsed, like they had practiced for this call. I swung my legs over the side, toes curling against the floor. "You are firing him before any sort of hearing." There was a small pause, some quiet typing, air humming through the line. "Our priority is student safety. With these accusations, we cannot delay." Student safety, that phrase sliced through whatever defense I had. I had opened that door last night, I had nodded along. Will he have a chance to respond to any of this? "You can contact his union representative, but our decision stands today." The call ended with a formal goodbye, like a bill reminder. I stared at my reflection in the black screen, face unfamiliar. Behind me, Lily pushed herself up on one elbow, watching. "Are they making him leave his job?" "Yes," I turned toward her, phone still in my hand. "They are taking him out of the classroom for now." She exhaled, a short sound that could have been relief or guilt. "Good, then he cannot do this to anyone else." That line landed like a stone in my chest. I wanted to hug her and vomit at the same time. Instead, I nodded once because I had chosen my track. "People will probably hear things today, we need to be ready." "Are you going to tell everyone what he did?" Her eyes were wide awake now, bright, almost feverish. "Not details, just enough so no one questions you." That last part came out sharper than I meant, almost defensive. I went downstairs and opened my laptop with shaking hands. Social media feeds glowed back at me, full of harmless nonsense. I clicked the status box and just stared for a few seconds. Then the words poured out fast, like they had waited years. I wrote about my child coming forward with something unspeakable. I wrote about courage and trust and believing survivors immediately. I did not include his name, but everyone in our circle would know. I finished with one hard sentence: I stand with my daughter. My thumb hovered over post for a breath that lasted forever. Once it went up, it could not come back down neatly. I tapped the button, watched the circle spin, waited for disaster. Instead, the likes started stacking in a steady, relentless stream. The first comment popped up instantly from another parent. "We love you both, whatever you need, we are here." Then more, "Proud of her bravery, men like that deserve prison." Each message felt like a small shot of energy straight to my chest. Lily came down and curled on the opposite couch, knees tucked tight. "Are people reacting already?" "Yes, they are supporting us." I did not mention the one message already asking, "Was it Dan?" By late morning, my phone would not stop lighting up. Text after text from numbers I half remembered from years back. One longed him. A friend wrote, "I always got a weird vibe from him." That line made my stomach roll, and I still pressed the heart. Another parent asked if the school knew about the situation yet. "They are handling it," I typed, hands moving faster than thought. "He is out of the classroom, your kids are safe." My own words felt like a ruling, not just reassurance. There was a knock at the door, softer than last night, still heavy. I froze for a second before checking the peephole. Our neighbor stood there holding a foil-covered dish against her chest. Her face carried that careful mix of pity and curiosity. "I heard some things, I did not want you cooking tonight." She brushed past me into the kitchen like we had planned this. "We are all talking about how brave your girl is." Her voice dropped on brave, like that word might break. Lily hovered in the doorway, shoulders tense, eyes on the floor. Our neighbor opened her arms a little, inviting, not forcing. "You are so strong for speaking up, honey." Lily stepped forward and let herself be held, jaw clenched tight. I watched, arms crossed, feeling both proud and strangely sidelined. I had wanted people to protect her, but this felt huge. A story bigger than our walls had started rolling on its own. I had helped push it, and now it had its own momentum. Around noon, the district sent a mass email to parents and staff. I did not get it directly, but screenshots flooded my messages. "An employee has been placed on leave due to serious allegations." They promised full cooperation with law enforcement and offered counseling lines. Someone had circled the phrase "serious allegations" before forwarding it. "That is him, right?" The text under it read, "No greeting." I typed back, "I cannot discuss details, but my daughter is the victim." Seeing those words in writing made the room tilt sideways. In the afternoon, a detective called to confirm logistics for Lily. We would like to schedule her interview at the station tomorrow morning. He explained how it would be recorded and who would be present. I held the phone between shoulder and ear while rinsing a mug. "She will be there," I answered, loud enough for Lily to hear. She stiffened on the couch, fingers working a loose thread relentlessly. "I already told everything last night, why again?" "This is where they build the case, it matters," I said. That word "case" hung in the space between us, heavy as concrete. We were not just a family with a problem anymore. We were evidence, timeline, accusation, potential trial exhibits. I pushed that thought down quick, like shoving junk into a closet. Late afternoon, another call came through, this time from Dan's sister. "What did you tell them? What is going on, Claire?" Her voice vibrated with anger and something close to fear. "They arrested him in our house, I did not invent that." "You told everyone he hurt Lily, do you understand what that does?" I moved to the sink, away from Lily's ears, heart knocking hard. "He did, and I am not going to silence her." There was a sharp inhale, then a low, furious whisper. "He worked with students his entire career, nothing like this ever happened." I clenched my jaw so tight my teeth ached. "Nothing that you know of." The call ended in cold, final silence that stung worse than yelling. By evening, my post had hundreds of reactions, more than anything before. Old classmates, coworkers, even distant relatives had chimed in. Some shared articles about abuse, statistics, hashtags, long threads of outrage. I scrolled for too long, feeding something I did not want to name. Every now and then, doubt tried to edge in quietly. A small voice asked, "Are you watching your own child perform?" I slammed it down with stories in the comments about disbelief. You do not question the person who says they were harmed. When the sun dropped, the house dimmed, and the screens glared harder. A news site ran a tiny piece about an educator under investigation. No name, just school district and vague mention of charges. Someone tagged me under it anyway, like that finished the puzzle. Do you think they will lock him up for good? Lily spoke without looking away from her phone. If the judge takes this seriously, yes, I answered. My tone was firm, but something in my chest wavered. Good, she muttered, then smiled at something on her screen. For a second, her face looked like any other teenager chatting. That normal expression under everything jolted me more than tears. It felt like we had stepped into two separate realities. Later that night, while I brushed my teeth, I heard her talking. Her bedroom door was mostly closed, light leaking around the frame. I could make out pieces of her voice through the thin wall. Yeah, I told him last week I would ruin his life. I froze, toothbrush still in my mouth, foam on my tongue. My heart rate spiked so fast it made me dizzy. She laughed softly, then dropped her voice. Gain words harder to catch. Came in at 11, no earlier, whatever, they believed me. I stepped closer to the wall, not breathing, listening for clarity. And then the cops showed up. It was actually kind of insane. Silence on her side, while whoever she was talking to responded. Of course I cried, they eat that up, she added, almost playful. I pulled back like I had been burned, stomach dropping to my knees. For a second, all the supportive comments and speeches flickered. Maybe I misheard, maybe teen bravado twisted something real into performance. That was the story I grabbed, because the other one terrified me. She came out a few minutes later, phone in her hand, face calm. You okay? I asked, trying to sound casual, voice a little tight. Yeah, just talking to friends about tomorrow, they want updates. She stretched, then yawned, as if we had lived any regular day. What time did it happen again last night? The question slipped out quieter than I planned, almost a whisper. She blinked once, then answered without pause. Right after midnight. Why? My throat closed around the answer I wanted to give. Last night, in front of the officers, she had said about an hour earlier. That tiny shift tapped at the back of my skull like a drip. I smiled instead and pretended I had not noticed the change. The red recording light blinked on and my throat tightened. Lily sat in the cushioned chair across from the detective. I stayed against the wall, hands locked together in my lap. Everything in that room felt like evidence, including my face. Tell me again, in your own words, what happened that night. The detective leaned forward a little, notebook balanced on his knee. His tone was neutral, practiced, almost bored, which made it worse. Lily stared at the table for a beat, then started talking. It was a little after midnight when he came in. Her voice sounded small but steady enough for the audio. He opened my door, sat near my legs, and put his hand there. Her fingers brushed her jeans, quick, like she did not want to touch herself. My eyes flicked to the clock on the wall just once. Midnight again. Last night she had told me the same. In front of the officers, though, she had said earlier. The difference was small, but it snagged under my skin. The detective kept his questions short, like bullet points. Where was your mother at that time? In the living room. I heard the TV. She did not even glance at me while she talked. Do you remember anything he said when he entered your room? He told me to relax. He said this would help me sleep. Her eyes glistened at the corners, just enough to show on video. A part of me winced, another part took mental notes. The detective nodded, then checked one of his pages. You told the officers it was about an hour before they arrived. Lily blinked twice, then lifted her chin a touch. Yeah, roughly an hour. I do not really watch the clock. He did not push that point further, which annoyed me instantly. I wanted him to press, to dig, to force clarity. Instead, he moved to the next section like this was all set. Has anything similar happened with him on any other night? Not this bad, but he has touched me for months. My fingers tightened so hard my knuckles ached. She had not mentioned months before, not in that exact way. I felt my heartbeat pounding in my ears like a drumline. When they finished, the detective clicked the recorder off. Thank you for answering those, that helps our investigation. He offered her a small plastic card with a phone hotline. If you remember any other detail, you can reach out anytime. We walked back down the hallway, Lily slightly ahead of me. Her shoulders stayed rigid, not slumped, not shaking, just rigid. I could not tell if that meant courage or something else. My thoughts ran too fast to pin anything down cleanly. In the lobby, the detective caught my arm gently. "Lily, could you wait by the chairs for a minute?" She moved away, phone already in her hand like armor. He lowered his voice as soon as she was out of range. "We have started going through background documentation on your partner." He kept his words careful, like stepping around a sinkhole. "There is one thing I want to bring to your attention early." My spine straightened because I heard that early as warning. We pulled his work records and travel receipts for the last month. He glanced at a printout in his folder, brows drawn together. Our information shows he was on an overnight field trip that date. He tapped the paper twice, under a timestamp that glared up. My mouth opened, no sound came out for a second. "What date did you use exactly?" "The night your daughter identified the call to dispatch matches." He looked at me now, eyes searching like he wanted my reaction. "He did not sleep at home that night, he checked into lodging." The words landed one at a time, heavy to stin. "CT impossible to mash. There are charges on his card and security footage requested already." He flipped the folder closed with a soft thud that echoed loudly. "Sometimes victims mix up dates under stress, that happens often." He spoke almost like he was reassuring me, not doubting her. "Memory can jump around, especially with trauma or panic." My brain grabbed that explanation like a life jacket, then paused. "But you are saying it is impossible he was there when she claims." I forced each word out slowly, trying to keep my voice level. "I am saying we need to clarify the timeline before we proceed." He emphasized we, but I felt alone in that hallway. On the drive home, Lily scrolled constantly, thumbs moving in bursts. I kept my eyes on the road and my questions in my mouth. The silence between us felt crowded, as if other people sat there. Every ping from her phone sounded like it carried a verdict. Are they going to arrest him again after this? She did not look up from the screen when she asked. If the evidence supports charges, yes, they will move forward. The phrase evidence tasted strange, almost metallic, sliding over my tongue. He is lying about where he was, you know that. Her jaw tightened as she spoke, like she bit down on the words. He probably had someone sign in for him at that hotel. The certainty in her voice did not match what I had heard earlier. At home, she headed straight to her room and closed the door. I stood in the hallway for a moment, keys still in my hand. The urge to check something, anything, grew louder than my fear. I went to my own room and opened my email. It did not take long to find the itinerary from his work. Confirmation number, departure time, list of students, staff contact. The date glared back at me, the same night she described. My chest felt tight, like someone wrapped tape around my ribs. I pulled up my calendar next, scanning the little squares quickly. There it was again in my own handwriting, overnight trip. I had even added a reminder because I knew he would be away. I stared at those words until my eyes started to sting. A rational part of me tried to fix it fast. Maybe she miscounted days, maybe stress scrambled the entire week. Maybe something happened another evening, and she lumped everything together. Every maybe felt flimsier than the last, like wet tissue. I backed away from the desk and listened for her movement upstairs. Water started running in the bathroom, full blast, no music. This was my chance if I was ever going to take one. My legs carried me toward her room before I fully decided. I pushed her door open a crack and looked at the bed. Her phone lay near the pillow, screen dark, charger unplugged. My hand hovered above it for a second, shaking slightly. Then I picked it up and let my fingerprints cross one more line. I hesitated at the lock screen until I remembered her code. Of course I knew it, I was the one who insisted on it. The home screen lit up with notification bubbles stacked in rows. Most were from the same name, a friend I recognized. I opened the thread and scrolled back to the day before everything. Messages jumped past my eyes, slang and emojis and sarcastic comments. Then a line froze me mid-scroll. If he keeps treating me like this, I am going to blow him up. My thumb stayed pressed against the glass, holding the view. The reply from her friend popped up above it. What do you mean, blow him up how? Lily's next response made my head swim. I will tell people he touched me or something, he will lose everything. There it was right there in black text I could not argue with. Timestamped 2 days before she called the police to our house. My whole body felt both hot and freezing at the same time. Another message a few lines down made my stomach lurch. Would you back me up if I needed you to? Her friend took longer to respond, the gap visible even on screen. That is serious, you cannot just make that up. Lily had replied almost immediately. I am not making it up, just planning to finally say it. She had thrown both possibilities in one line like a coin flip. True, not true, I suddenly realized I had no idea anymore. The shower shut off down the hall, pipes groaning as pressure dropped. I locked the screen, set the phone exactly where I found it. My hands felt stiff and clumsy, like they belonged to someone else. I stepped back into the hallway just before she opened the door. She came out wrapped in a towel, hair dripping against her shoulders. Can you throw my clothes in the dryer later? Her tone was casual, almost light, like nothing hung over us. I nodded too fast, hoping my face did not betray anything. Once she disappeared into her room again, I retreated to the kitchen. I needed noise, something ordinary to drown out my thoughts. I opened cabinets, closed drawers, moved aimlessly around the space. My mind stayed glued to that line. About making it up. The detective called a little while later with an update. We accessed video from the lodging where he reportedly stayed overnight. He sounded cautious now, almost stiff, like someone reading a script. Your partner appears on that footage around midnight with other staff. I gripped the counter so hard my nails dug into the surface. Are you sure it is that night, not another one? We cross-checked with the timestamp and the transaction records. His pause after that felt longer than the whole conversation. I am not saying your daughter is lying about being harmed. That line came out slow, careful, like he stepped through glass. But it is possible she misidentified the exact date or person. Person, that word knocked the air from my lungs for a second. Are you still comfortable moving forward publicly as you have? He did not mention my social media post, but we both knew. The question went straight to the part of me that had performed strength. I heard my own voice answer before I thought it through. I am standing with her until we know what happened for sure. I stressed until as if it protected us from being wrong. He exhaled quietly, the sound barely audible through the line. All right, we will keep you informed of further developments. After he hung up, the house felt too quiet again. I walked to the living room and opened the app on my phone. My post still sat there, covered in hearts and furious emojis. The comment count had climbed even higher in just a few hours. I scrolled through new replies with a kind of numb detachment. Strangers wrote about monsters, predators, and believing kids no matter what. One long thread debated whether men like that deserved second chances. They spoke about him like a type, not a person we knew. I caught my own reflection faintly in the glass of the screen. For a moment, I saw someone else, not just a mother. I saw a narrator of a story people wanted to rally around. Stepping out of that role felt harder than I expected. Later, I knocked on Lily's door with two knuckles soft. Can we talk for a minute? A click, then the door opened halfway. Her expression was flat, guarded, brows drawn together. What now? I held up my hands, like I was approaching a nervous animal. I just want to clear up some details about that night. Her eyes narrowed instantly, reading meaning behind every word. I already told them everything, why are you grilling me again? She folded her arms tight, shoulders lifting toward her ears. It is not grilling, the detective mentioned some mixed-up dates. The second I said mixed up, her cheeks flushed. I am sorry, my trauma does not follow a calendar for you. Her voice rose sharp, slicing through the thin hallway air. So now, because I did not write it in a planner, I am suspicious. Her words hit every weak spot I had exposed online. That is not what I am saying, You just talked to them, and they made you doubt me already. She stepped back, then forward, like she could not contain herself. You sounded exactly like every post about parents who do not believe. The worst part was that she was not totally wrong. I had read those posts, shared them, used them like armor. You accused him of something huge, I need things to line up. My voice shook on need, betraying how much I was clinging. Things did line up. He was in my room doing disgusting stuff. Her hands flew upward, shaking, as she pointed down the hallway. Why are you more worried about some hotel receipt than my body? The question came out raw, meant to wound, and it landed perfectly. I almost backed down right there, pulled back into automatic support. But the texts and video stood behind me like silent witnesses. The detective has footage showing him somewhere else that evening. The second the words left my mouth, I wished I could grab them. She froze for a heartbeat, then blinked fast, anger flaring higher. Oh, so because cameras love him, I am now on trial. She laughed once harshly, no humor in it at all. Newsflash, abusers lie and banks screw up times. Lily, they verified everything across multiple sources. I heard a weird formal tone slip in like I borrowed it. He appears on screen around midnight when you said he hurt you. My chest burned as I pressed that point out loud. Then I messed up the hour, big deal. She threw both hands into the air, dismissive, defiant, trembling. I was terrified, crying, trying to keep from throwing up. Her voice dropped suddenly. Sorry my performance did not impress you. That word performance hit like a punch straight to my sternum. I saw her last night on video replay, tears, pauses, brave looks. Do not call it a performance, I am trying to protect you. The sentence sounded thin even to my own ears. If you cared about protecting me, you would stop interrogating me. She jabbed a finger at my chest, eyes blazing almost. Daring me. You dragged me into that station, you put me on display. A tiny part of me agreed, and that made everything spin harder. She turned toward her bed, grabbing her pillows in quick jerks. I am staying in a friend's room tonight, I need space. My instinct screamed to refuse, to keep her where I could see her. I swallowed that reaction because I no longer trusted my own motives. I will drive you there at least. I kept my tone as even as I could manage. Fine, but I am not discussing this with you anymore. She yanked open her dresser and started packing, movements jerky. On the drive to her friend's subdivision, she stared out the window. Streetlights cut across her face in angled bands as we passed. You are not going to tell her parents everything, right? Her voice carried both command and pleading in equal measure. I will say you had a rough week and need support. I gripped the steering wheel, knuckles pale, jaw locked. If they ask questions about the case, I will keep it short. Even my promises felt slippery now, like I could not anchor them. Her friend's mother greeted us at the door with worried eyes. We heard something happened, we are here for you both. She pulled Lily into a hug, hand resting on the back of her head. Over her shoulder, Lily shot me a look I could not decode. On the way back alone, the car felt like a confession booth. My mind replayed every part of the last few days out of order. The knock at the door, the cuffs, the social media roar. The message about making it up sat at the center, pulsing. At home, I poured myself a drink and did not touch it. Instead, I opened my laptop and pulled up the text screenshots. I had forwarded them to myself, like proof I might someday need. The lines glowed on the screen, indifferent to my shaking hands. I will tell people he touched me or something. That tiny phrase or something would not let go of me. It sounded like shopping for a story, not surviving one. I stared until the words blurred, but the meaning stayed sharp. I drafted an email to the detective, fingers hovering over keys. Thought about attaching the screenshots, sending everything right then. Thought about the comments calling me brave, the neighbors checking in. Thought about Dan alone somewhere, branded before any real examination. My cursor blinked on an empty screen while my thoughts tangled. If I send the texts, I might be saving an innocent person. I might also be handing them ammunition to destroy my daughter's credibility. Either way, someone I loved would get crushed, and I had to choose. In the end, I closed the laptop without sending anything at all. Cowardice and caution felt exactly the same in that moment. I turned off every light and leaned against the dark hallway wall. For the first time since this started, I wondered if we were the ones who had done something unforgivable. I killed the engine and clicked the locks before she could react. We sat in the empty strip mall lot while the car ticked. Lily frowned at the dashboard, then twisted toward me slowly. Why are we here? This is not the way home. I needed you where you cannot storm off. My voice came out calmer than the pounding in my chest. We are going to talk, really talk, before we step back inside. Her fingers tightened around her phone, ready for battle. If this is another interrogation about times and dates, forget it. She slumped against the seat, jaw set, eyes on the windshield. I already told the story to those people with the cameras. She laughed once under her breath, sharp, not amused at all. It is not about the cameras today. I rested my hands on the wheel so she could see them. It is about the parts you did not include in that room. Her head snapped toward me, eyes suddenly cautious. What parts? You were standing right there. She shifted in her seat, pulling one leg up under herself. You heard everything I told them about that night. The way she said night sent a shiver through my ribs. You are right, I heard every word in that chair. I watched her face, not blinking, not backing away. I also heard you in our house when you thought I could not. Her stare flickered for a second, then hardened. When you were on the phone, talking about ruining his life. I did not raise my voice, I kept it low and clear. You said you warned him last week you would do it. I saw the exact moment she recognized the quote. She shifted again, shoulders rising, chin lifting in defense. I vented, that is what people do when they are angry. Her thumb hovered over her screen now, ready to escape inside it. It does not mean I invented everything that happened. I also saw your messages, the ones with your friend. The words tasted sour leaving my mouth, but I forced them out. You talked about saying he touched you so he would lose his job. Her face went a shade paler, then flushed fast. You went through my phones. Her voice cracked on that single word, outrage and panic mixed. You do not get to lecture anyone on privacy anymore. She let out a harsh breath, then shook her head. Those were drafts, ideas, stupid threats, whatever you want to call them. She flicked imaginary dust from her jeans, avoiding my eyes now. They were written because he made my life miserable for months. That last word trembled, not entirely from fake emotion. There is more. I dug my nails into my palms until they hurt. The travel records show he was out of town that night. I watched her mouth clamp shut, lips pressing into a thin line. He checked in with staff, he appears on recorded video there. I kept each sentence short so I would not start begging. There are receipts with timestamps, names, everything lined up against your story. Silence hummed between us, louder than any radio. So the system says he is a saint, we should all clap. She finally spoke, words brittle, almost rattling in the small space. No one ever lies to protect men in those positions, right? Sarcasm dripped, but there was fear under it. Lily, stop rushing into slogans and listen to me. My hands left the steering wheel and rested on my knees. I marched right behind you and shouted those same lines online. She blinked, surprised I admitted that so bluntly. I did what everyone says a good parent does. I could hear my own bitterness now, thick and ugly. I declared you heroic, I painted him as danger instantly. Her expression flickered, guilty for a heartbeat, then defensive again. So what, you regret supporting me now? She turned toward the window, but her voice stayed facing me. Do you want a medal for doing the bare minimum? The word stung because some part of me used to believe that. I regret not asking harder questions the second things stopped matching. I swallowed throat tight, forcing each word out steady. I regret enjoying the applause more than I admit. That was the part that made my stomach twist hardest. Her head whipped around at that. You enjoyed it. Her eyes widened, disbelief and disgust mixing with something like curiosity. So this is about your guilt tour now. It is about what we did to someone who may be innocent. My voice shook on May, that tiny word carried a mountain. If you are holding something back, you are not just hurting him. I tapped my chest once, you are destroying me too. She snorted a sharp burst. He destroyed me first. Her hand slapped the door panel, quick, a little wild. You have no idea how it felt when you believed him over me. I did not. I leaned closer, the seatbelt digging into my shoulder. You did not tell me anything before that night in the hallway. Her mouth twisted, like she wanted to spit out other memories. He watched everything I did, controlled everything, criticized everything. She counted points on her fingers like reading a charge sheet. He treated me like a prisoner in my own house. Her eyes flashed, and that part at least did not feel fabricated. Controlling is awful, I'm not saying it is fine. I raised both hands again, demanding her attention. What I am asking is simple, even if it hurts. I paused, giving weight to the next words. Did he ever touch you sexually, anytime, any place at all? The question sucked the air out of the car for a moment. Her gaze dropped to her shoes, lashes trembling, mouth slightly open. Time stretched, every second punching against my throat. She dragged in a breath, long and shaky. There were times he hugged me too long, that felt wrong. She rubbed her arms, almost like wiping off something sticky. I told you he made comments about what I wore. That is not the question I just asked. I cut in before she could keep circling the same examples. I asked if he ever put hands on you in a sexual way. My own breathing went uneven, and I forced it to slow. Her shoulders hunched, making her look younger than she was. This is exactly why people do not report things. Tears filmed her eyes now, clinging to the edges. You are splitting hairs until there is nothing left. Answer me straight. The word straight came out more harshly than planned. I tapped the wheel once, then stilled my hand again. Yes or no, Lily? The tears finally spilled over, streaking down fast. She wiped them away with the heel of her hand. No, not like in those shows, not exactly like that. She whispered it as if volume changed the meaning. For a second, everything tilted in my head. Cars passed on the road beyond, tires hissing over asphalt. Inside our cabin, that single no bounced against every wall. I felt something cold spread through my chest and sit there. So the night you described to them, the bed, the hand. My voice dropped to almost nothing, still somehow too loud. That never happened. I needed to hear her say the words, not just dodge them. She drew her legs up, hugging T. Hem forehead pressed to her knees. When she spoke, the sound came muffled and raw. I pictured it so often it started feeling real, all of it. She rocked slightly, like trying to comfort herself. That night he actually was gone with the students, you know that. I said it gently, not as an attack, more as anchor. He was busy managing teenagers, not sneaking into your room. The truth sounded simple and brutal side by side. She lifted her head slowly, eyes red, face streaked and blotchy. I wanted him out of our lives, that part was real. Her voice broke, then steadied in short bursts. I just picked the only way anyone would listen to me. What does that mean, the only way? I searched her face, hunting for something solid. You could have told me about the comments and control. My own excuses from the past week throbbed behind my eyes. You would have told him to be nicer, that is it. She let out a humorless laugh, short, jagged, bitter. Then you both would have agreed I was dramatic and hormonal. Her words hit home because they were not entirely wrong. So you escalated to the nuclear option, you went straight there. I almost choked on the phrase, but I did not stop. You declared a crime in detail on record with officers listening. My hands shook against my jeans, the fabric rough under my fingertips. I thought it would scare him, make him back off. She scrubbed her cheeks, fingers pressing hard into her skin. I thought they would yell at him, maybe move him out. Her eyes darted toward me. I did not think this far ahead. You threatened him in those texts days before you dialed. I heard my voice turn colder, not by choice. You asked your friend to support a story you had not lived. I saw the moment she realized there was no way out now. I was furious that night. He took my phone for a week. Her words tumbled fast, almost tripping over each other. He called me names, grounded me, made me feel disgusting and useless. She bit her lip hard enough to leave a mark. So you promised you would ruin him somehow. I finished the thought she could not say cleanly. You went upstairs, you rehearsed, you walked down, you aimed. Every action lined up, and I hated each step. I told myself I was finally getting justice for everything. She stared past me at nothing, eyes unfocused, voice distant. The jokes, the rules, the constant judgment whenever I breathed wrong. She shuddered once, the weight of it all crushing down. Justice for harsh rules is not accusing someone of a felony. I leaned back in my seat, exhaustion slamming into me. This is not balancing a scale, this is blowing up the building. My tone shook and I did not bother to hide it. She flinched at that image, shoulders jerking. I know now, okay. She pressed her palms against her eyes, pushing more tears out. I watched them drag him out of the house and I realized. Realized what? The question hung tight between us, almost buzzing. That I had started something I could not stop without destroying myself. Her hands dropped, fingers spread, as if releasing something heavy. If I backed down, they would call me a liar forever. Her voice rasped, raw from crying and yelling. Everyone at school would know, you would never trust me again. She shook her head slower now, so I just kept going. My stomach twisted so hard I thought I might be sick. So you watch me post and speak and comfort you, all of it. I could hear the accusation inside my own question. You let me build that story while you knew the center was hollow. I kept waiting for you to figure it out first. That line stunned me more than anything else so far. If you caught it, you could stop and not me. She stared down at her hands, ashamed, almost whispering. Do you understand what I did to him with your story? My words came slower now, weighed down but still sharp. He lost his position, his standing, his reputation with everyone. Images flashed in my mind of messages, headlines, pointed glances. I saw the article. She swallowed, throat bobbing visibly. People sent screenshots, they were cheering like he was already convicted. Her eyes closed for a beat. I pretended I was relieved. You were not. I needed to know, even if it changed nothing. I was hollow. She hugged herself tighter. I kept thinking about that night at the door. You pointed at him without shaking, you were so precise. I could still see that moment in the hallway, burned in. I believed because there was no hesitation in your body. Saying that out loud made my own judgment sound flimsy. I decided before they arrived that I would go all in. She looked straight at me now, no flinching, no dodging. If I acted unsure, they might doubt me, then protect him. Her honesty landed like a slap I almost felt physically. So you rehearsed which words would sound convincing. The phrase tasted bitter. Like I was poisoning myself. And you practiced tears on the phone so your friends would validate you. Her lower lip trembled again. Not practice like fake crying in a mirror. She winced at her own defense, hearing it fall apart. It was more like I turned everything I hated into fuel. Her hands opened and closed on her thighs. I wanted you back. She blurted that last part out like it escaped by accident. I wanted you only on my side, not sharing every decision with him. Her eyes grew glossy again. I wanted to be your first person. The words hit me somewhere deep. Ugly, honest, childlike, selfish, desperate all at once. My instinct was to reach for her, but my arms stayed down. Love and fury collided so hard inside me I almost shook. You got me fully for these weeks. My voice dropped low, dangerous even to my own ears. You also got a man branded as a predator for life. I watched that sink in like she heard it for the first time. I did not think beyond the knock at the door. Her confession came out small now, stripped of bravado. I thought they would scare him, maybe hand him a warning. She stared at the floor mat, unable to meet my gaze. There is no warning box for what you reported. My words were flat, almost numb. They do not have a middle category for living room drama. I exhaled slowly. They have charges, registries, records that never fade. I messed up. The phrase sounded ridiculous compared to the damage described. I lied about the worst thing someone can do, I know that. She covered her mouth with one hand, voice muffled. I am so angry at you I can barely stay in this car. I admitted it because pretending otherwise would be pointless. My whole body wants to scream at you until my throat breaks. My fingers dug into my knees again, keeping me in place. Just do it then, get it over with. She looked at me, bracing like for an impact. If you're going to throw me away, do it now. Her eyes shone, daring me to follow through. I am not throwing you away. The answer came from somewhere beneath the anger, deeper down. But I am not covering this up to save you either. Saying that out loud terrified me more than any police siren. Her face crumpled, fear overtaking everything else. You are going to tell them I lied. She pressed her back into the seat, as if trying to disappear. They will charge me, I will end up in handcuffs. I do not know exactly how they will react. I was not going to offer comfort I could not deliver. What I know is I cannot keep pretending for them or him. My voice dropped to a whisper, or for myself. You could just say I mixed up the person like they suggested. She lunged for that idea, grabbing it with both hands. Or that trauma scrambled everything so much I cannot recall details. She spoke fast, trying to spin a new narrative right there. Is there another person who did what you described? I asked it as gently as I could, and she hesitated. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again, nothing formed. Her silence answered more clearly than any speech. No. I filled in for both of us. There is not some mystery figure who crept into your room. The air in the car felt heavy, pressing down on our shoulders. She started rocking slightly again like earlier. They will arrest me, they will lock me up somewhere horrible. She gripped the seat belt, knuckles pale. You are choosing him over me after all. I am choosing the truth, even if it wrecks all of us. My chest burned, but the sentence felt right. I already chose blindly once, and look where that led. I spread my hands in front of us. Tears poured down her face unchecked now, breath hitching sharply. I will never survive people finding out I lied like this. She shook her head hard, hair whipping across her cheeks. They will hate me at school, online, everywhere. You might be overestimating how long strangers stay focused. The remark slipped out, tired and brutal. They move on to the next disaster fast, we saw it. Still, I knew some damage would cling to her name. What about you? She hurled the question straight at me, eyes blazing. You posted, you rallied everyone, you called him danger to children. Her voice rose, you do not get to act above this. That one landed square in my chest. I am not above it, I am right in the sludge with you. I let out a short humorless breath, almost a laugh. I liked being the fierce mother online way too much. She stared, surprised by the honesty. You liked it. The word came out soft, almost stunned. While he was getting dragged out of our house. I did not like his suffering, I am not that far gone. I shook my head, struggling to explain the twisted truth. I liked the way people rushed to praise me for believing you. Those notifications had felt like proof I was good. That is messed up. Her voice held judgment and a hint of understanding. We both used this, just for different reasons. That sentence cut through my last layer of denial. I started the car again, the engine rumbling to life. We are going to the station right now. Her eyes went wide, panic flooding back across her features. No, please, not tonight, give me time. Time for what? To design another story. I pulled out of the lot, hands steady on the wheel. If we wait, this hard thing only grows bigger and sharper. She covered her face and sobbed quietly. The drive felt both endless and too short. Traffic lights changed above us, but I barely registered the colors. My whole focus stayed on not turning the car around. Every block brought us closer to something irreversible. In the parking area behind the station, I cut the engine again. For a long moment, neither of us moved or spoke. I watched my reflection in the dark glass ahead, barely recognizable. Beside me, Lily shook in small, silent jolts. If you walk in there with me, you are not alone. I turned to her fully, forcing her to meet my eyes. If I walk in without you, they will still dig this up. I let that reality hang for a beat. How do I even say it? Her voice was barely audible now, just a thin thread. Do I just tell them the whole thing was a performance? The word made both of us flinch. You say you exaggerated, you say you misrepresented, you say you lied. It hurt to list it, but I did not soften it. You tell them exactly what you told me 10 minutes ago. My hand hovered near hers, not quite touching. And then what? She stared at the looming building, eyes wide, body rigid. They drag me into some room and charge me as a criminal. Her lip quivered, you watch through the glass this time. I do not know the script that comes after. The admission felt like surrender and strength together. I only know there is no honest version of our lives without this step. I paused, then added, and he deserves that shot at truth. She closed her eyes and leaned her head back against the seat. Do you still love me after this, or is that gone? The question pierced through every layer of anger in one move. I answered before my mind even finished forming words. Yes, I love you fiercely, stupidly to the end. My voice broke on the last part, no way to hide it. That is exactly why we are walking in there. I put my hand over hers firm. She let it stay there for a few seconds, breathing raggedly. Then she pulled her fingers free, wiped her face roughly. Okay, but if I throw up on their floor, that is on you. The joke was thin, shaky, still it was something. We climbed out and started toward the rear entrance side by side. Every step felt heavier than the last, as if the ground resisted. Halfway there she stopped dead, shoes planted. I cannot do it, I cannot open my mouth in there. I turned back, close enough to see every tremor in her muscles. If you freeze, I will start, I will tell them what I know. I took a breath, and I will give them those messages. Her eyes widened at that extra detail. You saved them. She sounded betrayed and impressed at the same time. Of course you did, you planned 10 disasters ahead. She glanced down, I really underestimated you. I underestimated myself, that is the problem. A bitter smile tugged at my mouth, gone almost instantly. I thought I could live with a little doubt if it meant protecting you. I shook my head, turns out I cannot live with this heavy a lie. We reached the door and I pulled it open. Cool air from the hallway brushed past us, carrying faint echoes. Lily hesitated on the threshold, toes just inside, heels still out. Then she stepped through, shoulders squared more than I expected. At the front desk, the officer on duty looked up, surprised. Back again so soon. His eyes flicked from me to Lily, quietly assessing. We need to talk to the detective handling our case. As we waited on a bench, my legs bounced uncontrollably. Lily clasped her hands so tightly her knuckles looked strained. She stared straight ahead, lips moving silently, maybe rehearsing. I watched her, realizing this was the bravest thing she had ever done. A door opened down the hall and the detective appeared. His gaze landed on us, brows lifting, mouth pressing into a line. This is unexpected. He stepped closer, is everything all right? I looked at my daughter, giving her one last chance to choose. Her chin lifted, eyes shining but clear. No, everything is not all right, and I need to fix what I broke. In that instant, I saw the story shift, and I knew there was no way back. The detective shut the door, and Lily's hands slipped out of mine. She dropped into the chair across from him like her legs quit. I stayed by the wall again, palms pressed against the table edge. He clicked the recorder on, that small red light punching my nerves. You said you need to fix something, he started, tone cautious. What do you mean by that, Lily? She stared at the recorder for a second, chest rising too fast. Then she looked at me instead of him, eyes begging me to start. I shook my head once. This has to come from you. My voice came out hoarse but steady enough to hold the moment. Her fingers twisted together so tight they shook. I lied, she blurted, the words crashing out too loud. The detective's pen paused halfway to the page, hovering midair. Which part, he asked, voice suddenly much flatter. She swallowed hard, then forced herself to keep going. I made up the stuff about him coming into my room. Her gaze dropped to her knees, shoulders curving inward. He never did that, not that night, not any night. Her next breath sounded like it scraped her throat on the way out. The detective did not move for a few seconds. He glanced at the recorder, then back at her face. Are you saying the incident you described did not occur? Each word spaced out, careful, like he was stepping across ice. Yeah, she whispered, then louder. Yes, that is what I am saying. I was angry at him, I wanted him gone from our lives. I told you a story that matched that anger, not reality. Her cheeks flushed deep, but she did not look away now. He leaned back, pen finally touching the paper again. Did anyone pressure you to change your statement today? His eyes shifted briefly toward me, sharp, measuring. Lily shook her head quickly, hair brushing her jaw. No one pushed me, she answered, voice stronger. My mom asked questions and I cracked because I knew the truth. I have been freaking out since the night they took him away. Her fingers dug little crescents into her own palm. The detective flipped a page in his notebook slowly. Did your mother ever suggest you say it was false? Did she tell you what words to use right now? His gaze landed back on me while he asked. Lily straightened in her chair, spine stiff, eyes clear. No, this is me, she insisted, almost snapping the last word. She found messages where I bragged about ruining his life. She confronted me in the car, and I finally admitted everything. He turned toward me fully then. Miss Carter, do you have those messages still? My throat tightened, but I nodded and pulled my phone out. I laid it on the table like a small explosive. He slid it closer with 2 fingers, careful not to touch me. Can I open the thread you're talking about? Go ahead, I answered, my voice smaller than I wanted. Watching someone else step into that conversation felt unreal. He scrolled without commentary for a while. Expression neutral, eyes moving steadily across the lines. When he reached the part about making something up, his jaw flexed. He tapped the screen twice, marking a screenshot. I will need to preserve this as evidence, he said finally. Are you willing to let our tech unit extract a copy? Yes, I answered without pause, even though my stomach lurched. Consent meant no way to pretend this meeting never happened. He set the phone aside and focused back on Lily. Walk me through what you did the night you called us. Not the story about him, your actual actions in the house. His tone shifted, more clinical now, less consoling. She drew in a shaky lungful of air. I was upstairs, grounded, furious about it. I told a friend I would destroy him somehow, and she pushed back. I got more stubborn because that is what I do when cornered. She wiped under one eye with the side of her hand. I waited until my mom was downstairs, then I thought about it. I knew if I just complained about rules, no one would care. So I picked the worst thing a person can do and used that. Hearing it laid out plain like that made my head buzz. The detective's pen did not slow, every sentence going down. Why involve law enforcement at all? He asked after a pause. You could have tried to get him out in other ways. People listen when cops show up, she answered, barely hesitating. They listen when a girl says someone crossed a line like that. If I kept it inside the house, he would talk his way out. She stared at the table, eyes unfocused now. Did your mother know it was untrue when you spoke to officers? He asked the question in a steady, even tone. I felt that one hit harder than anything else in the room. I opened my mouth, but Lily spoke first. No, she believed me totally. Lily looked at me for once, not away. She threw him under the bus faster than anyone. Her attempt at dark humor thudded between us and stayed there. The detective's eyes flicked to me again. Is that accurate from your perspective? Yes, I answered, shame burning straight through my chest. I trusted her version more than calendars, records, anything. He set the pen down and rubbed the bridge of his nose. In this recording, you are saying your prior statement was knowingly false. You understood at the time that you were discreet. Being something invented. He left a small space there waiting. I knew it was not real, she replied very quietly. I pretended it was, long enough that it started to feel close. But I always knew he did not actually enter my room that way. Her voice wobbled but did not break on that last line. He clicked off the recorder, then back on again. He read a short legal phrase about voluntary correction under no coercion. Then he shut it down for good and folded his hands together. The silence that followed pressed at my ears. This changes our case significantly, he said finally. We will forward this recantation and the digital evidence to the prosecutor. They will decide how to proceed with his file and with yours. His calm tone did not match the bomb he had just described. Lily's head snapped up. With mine, she echoed, panic flaring again. Are you going to arrest me now like you did him? Her fingers grasped the edge of the chair so hard they whitened. That is not my decision in this moment. He held up a hand, maybe to slow her spiraling. False reporting can be charged, but age and context matter. His gaze softened a fraction. Juvenile cases are handled differently. Handled how? I asked, because that vague word was unbearable. Could she end up in court or detention or what? I heard the tremor in my own voice and hated it. He took a breath before answering. At minimum, this will go in a file for internal review. They may decide formal consequences are not in the community's interest. Or they may order some mandatory counseling through the youth system. Right now, I honestly cannot predict which path they will choose. He looked at both of us again, eyes tired, careful. Either way, this recording exists now, and that matters. It matters for your partner, and it matters for any future reports. That last part made my skin prickle. We stepped out into the hallway with legs that felt unsteady. Lily moved like she had run a mile in heavy boots. My phone buzzed in the detective's hand, then quieted again. He passed it back to me, our fingers not touching. One more thing, he added before walking away. Do not post about this meeting online tonight. His eyes held mine. Let us process this before the world does. He did not say because you set a whole room on fire already, but he could have. In the car, Lily folded into the seat and shut her eyes. I feel like I just walked into a saw. Her voice sounded hollow, scraped clean of bravado. I started driving without answering, knuckles taut on the wheel. Halfway home, she spoke again, words spilling out slow. Do you think they will tell him what I did? That I told them it was fake, that I admitted everything. Her fingers pulled at a loose thread on her shirt. I think his attorney will hear every detail, I answered. He will know you corrected the record, but not why. They will read it as strategy or panic or who knows what. None of the options sounded like healing. I want him to hear it from me, she murmured. Not through some stranger with a briefcase and an agenda. I owe him that much at least, even if he never forgives me. Her voice shook more on owe than forgive. He may not want to be in a room with us again, I warned. If I were him, I would avoid anything that smells like us. Lawyers tell people in his position to stay far away. The truth felt brutal, but lying would have been worse. She rested her forehead against the glass. If he never looks at me again, I deserve that. I keep thinking about his face when they grabbed his arms. She squeezed her eyes shut. I did that to him. We sat in that for a minute, just the road humming under us. I wanted to say something kind, something soothing and big. Nothing came that did not sound like cheap forgiveness. So I kept my mouth closed and let the weight sit. The next big hit came 2 days later. The prosecutor's office called while I was unloading groceries. We will not be pursuing charges against Daniel Carter at this time. The voice on the phone delivered it like a weather report. We have reviewed the conflicting statements and corroborating documents. With the new information, we cannot meet our burden of proof. The original arrest remains on record, but the case is closed. The phrase remains on record lodged under my ribs and stayed there. What about the complaint against my daughter? I asked. There was a pause, then some rustling of papers. It has been referred for evaluation to the juvenile division. They may recommend counseling instead of formal adjudication. Will she have a criminal record? I pushed, heart pounding. That depends on their assessment and any conditions imposed. The answer did not give me anything I could hold. We ended the call with no tidy closure, just hanging threads. I told Lily that night at the kitchen counter. They dropped the case against him, legally at least. She stared at the surface, jaw clenched, eyes shiny. So he walks away free and I might not. Free is a strong word for what he got, I replied. His name is still pinned to that night in every database. People remember headlines, not retractions buried in paperwork. She flinched slightly at the word retractions. Did they say anything about what they will do to me? Nothing clear yet, I answered, because that was the truth. They might push therapy through the court or they might not. Either way, you and I are already living a punishment. I posted an update the next day and I still regret it. I kept it short, or what passed for short for me. New information has come to light that changes our previous understanding. My daughter has corrected her statement and the investigation is closed. The reaction was instant, sharp and split. Some people commented with shock and angry question marks. A few wrote, false accusations ruin real survivors, this makes us all look worse. Others insisted recantations are always forced by families protecting abusers. One message from a woman I barely knew hit hardest. We believed you because you sounded so sure, do you get that? You asked us to stand with you, then yanked the floor away. Her words stung because I could not argue with them. I turned off notifications after an hour, but it was too late. Screenshots traveled places I would never see. Lily's name and mine slid through group chats and private threads. We had become a cautionary tale with no agreed lesson. At school, things got ugly faster than I expected. Lily started coming home with new stories every day. Someone scrawled liar on her locker in thick, shaky letters. A boy in one class muttered fake victim loud enough to carry. Do not call the office, it will just make it worse, she begged. Her eyes were wild, desperate to keep what control she had. If you storm in there, I will be the snitch and the psycho. She dropped her bag on the floor and stomped down the hall. We found a therapist through a list the detective's office sent. First session, Lily sat with arms folded, answers clipped and hostile. I accused someone of something huge, then confessed I lied, she said. So what do we do, color about it? The therapist did not flinch at that. Sounds like you carried more than one heavy thing at once. Anger, fear, power, guilt, all tangled together. Lily rolled her eyes but did not shut down completely. It took weeks for those sessions to turn into real talking. Even then, progress never looked like movie scenes. Sometimes it was just her admitting she missed him yelling about curfew. Sometimes it was her saying she hated the girl she had been. I sat in my own slot with that same therapist eventually. So you wanted to be the model supportive parent, she observed. You leaped toward that role before you checked the ground. I laughed once bitter then nodded. Every post told me what a good mother does, I answered. Believe your kid, make noise, burn bridges if needed. I never saw a script for what to do when your kid lies. The room stayed quiet for a long moment after that. You can love her and still feel rage, the therapist said. Those things can sit in the same chair without canceling out. You do not have to pretend this was a noble mistake. That sentence stayed with me longer than any breathing exercise. We did not hear from Dan for months. No calls, no messages, nothing through mutual friends. I knew through gossip that he had moved out of our area. Someone mentioned he was working retail and tutoring at night. Then one afternoon, my phone lit up with an unfamiliar number. I answered out of habit, ready to hang up if necessary. Hello. There was a pause, then a voice I knew too well. It is me, he said, short, flat. I could almost see his mouth shape the words. I got a copy of the recantation and the screenshots. I wanted to hear you say it yourself before I decide anything. My heart hammered hard enough to make me dizzy. It was false, I said, no preamble, no softening. The specific allegation about that night was invented by her. I walked it right to your front door without checking. I know what she told them now, he replied. I want to know what you believe, not what she said. His tone held no warmth, just cold curiosity. Do you still think I am the kind of man they wrote about? I pressed my thumb into the counter until it hurt. No, I do not, I answered, surprising myself with the certainty. I think you were strict and sometimes cruel with your words. I think she turned that into something it never was. And you added gasoline with your campaign, he added. He was not wrong and we both knew it. You gave my district a neat story about a danger they had missed. You made them feel righteous while they erased me. I did, I admitted, voice shaking. I liked feeling like I had finally chosen someone fully. I did not see that I was stepping on you to climb. Saying it out loud made me want to crawl out of my skin. There is no fixing this, he said after a short silence. They cleared my file, but the arrest still appears on every check. Any new employer who sees that will toss my application. He let out a breath that sounded tired, not angry. I know, I answered, because denial would be insulting. I have written letters, offered to speak to whoever will listen. Most people do not care about nuance, they just scan for red flags. I pictured hiring managers scrolling past his name. Why are you calling me? I asked finally. You do not owe me even this much contact. Part of me expected him to hang up right there. Instead, he surprised me again. I needed to know if you would actually use the word wrong, he said. Not unfortunate, not messy, not complicated, just wrong. On my best days, I think maybe you got swept up. On my worst days, I think you enjoyed watching me fall. I did not enjoy it, I answered, throat tight. But I did not fight it either, and that is almost as bad. I wanted a villain everyone could see, so I did not look too close. I rubbed my forehead, suddenly exhausted. I am not suing you, he said, matter of fact. Lawyers talk about it, friends talk about it, I am tired of it. If I spend years chasing punishment, I never get my life back. His voice dipped, I just needed to hear you own it. I do, I said quietly. I own every piece of this, even the parts that were hers. I cannot change records, but I can carry the blame you deserve me to. The words felt small compared to what he lost. He was quiet for a long time. I do not want to see either of you again, he said at last. Not in person, not on holidays, not at some future crisis. He paused. I hope she grows into somebody different, far away from me. The call ended with a simple goodbye, no extra lines. He did not slam the connection closed, he just let it go. That almost hurt more than if he had screamed. He sounded finished, and there is no appeal from that. When I told Lily he had called, she went very still. Did he yell? She asked, barely audible. Did he call me names, curse me out? Her fingers fidgeted with the hem of her sleeve. No, I answered and watched confusion cross her face. He said he believes the correction, and he wants distance forever. She swallowed hard, nodding like she expected that part. That is fair, she whispered. If I were him, I would run too. For a while, our house turned into a quiet, strange place. Some nights we barely spoke, just moved around each other. Other nights we fought over tiny things that were not tiny at all. Who left a door unlocked, who forgot to answer a message, who breathed wrong. Slowly, painfully, the volume lowered. Lily started going to therapy without me reminding her. She joined a club after school, something with art and music. She came home one day and mentioned a project without flinching. I told my therapist I still hate myself, she said one evening. She said hating myself keeps me stuck in the same place. She told me guilt is supposed to push you to do better, not freeze you. She shrugged. I am trying to believe her, it is not easy. I still get messages occasionally when some new scandal hits the news. Remember what happened with your family, someone will write. Do you think this one is real, or another mess like yours? They push for a verdict I have no right to give. Whenever I hear a story about assault now, my stomach knots. I feel pulled in two directions at once, every single time. The old script says believe first, protect the person speaking. The new scar says check everything twice, because you lived the opposite. I do not trust my instincts anymore, and maybe that is good. They carried me into this disaster with way too much confidence. Now I move slower, ask more questions, keep my mouth off the megaphone. Online, I scroll past most outraged threads without joining. Lily is older now, and this lives under her skin. She knows she almost traded his freedom for her temporary victory. She knows some classmates will never look at her without seeing that label. She also knows she walked into that room and told the truth at the end. Sometimes late at night, she will knock on my door softly. I thought about what I did again, she will mumble. I know you're tired of hearing it, but it eats me up. We sit on the edge of the bed, both worn down, both still there. I do not have a neat message for you, if you are reading this. I am not here to tell you always believe or always doubt. I can only tell you what I did when my kid pointed at someone. I chose fast, loud, public, and a man's life shattered. He did not get a full restoration when the truth crawled out. He just got silence instead of sirens, which is not much of a rise. We did not get a happy ending either, just a long, slow repair job. Most days, we are still somewhere in the middle of that. I keep my phone on loud every night, even now. Part of me waits for a number I recognize to show up again. Maybe he will never call, and I understand why. I just want him to know that in this one small corner of the internet, I am not asking anyone to choose sides. I am only finally telling the whole story.